This is my overhead camera rack I use to do my YouTube videos for Geek Must Have. I have named it Charlotte because Charlotte happens to be the name of the manufacturer, Charlotte Pipe, who made the PVC pipe that this was made from. This is Geek Must Have, and this is a presentation on my overhead video rig. It's called Charlotte Part 2 because Part 1 was the original video I did, which was kind of crude and didn't have any instructions or details as to how I actually went about doing this thing. So I am going to do a little bit of a review on this and show it to you. So, Bruce Lee. I love his quotations, but this one is particularly potent here. A teacher's never a giver of truth. He's a guide, a pointer to the truth that each student must find for themselves. I'm showing this video to you, and this is not a reference video. This is not how it's supposed to be done. This is just a way it could be done. So I'm showing it to you with the idea that maybe you can pick this up, improve upon it, or learn something from it. I found out that overhead videos suck with a tripod. You can never get the angle just right, no matter if it's behind you, beside you, or whatever. And the tripod legs sometimes just end up in the frame and it doesn't look right. And cable management is a rigging nightmare. When I first set it up, I had cables all over the place, and I kept snagging stuff and messing with the alignment of the stand and screwing projects up, so managing the cables is a very important thing. I have video camera power, I have lighting power, I have the USB feed from the camera to the computer, and tripod vibration. Usually the tripod would be on the desk pointing downward, and because it only had 3 small points of balance or focus, it vibrated. So I did have some requirements for Charlotte. Had to be a stable platform. I was going to do overhead videos, much like the videos you see on Julian Lett's channel. I'll put a link to his channel in the description below. It had to be easy to take apart and store. Not that I was going to be taking this apart and putting it together frequently, because frankly, it's a pain in the ass to get it all lined up and all put together, but it is disassemblable so I can take it to another location. Adjustable. I made it so that I could make it taller or shorter so I could adapt it for either the lab or the workshop videos. And my reference was the green mat. That was the mat you saw in the first part of the video here. It's 24 inches, 61 centimeters wide by 17 inches, 43 centimeters deep. And that was my reference. My camera had to frame in on that. The rest of my requirements were, as I was trying to get a trapezoid view of the map. That means the top of the map is narrower than the bottom of the mat. And again, I was trying to mimic the way Julian Lett's videos look. I really like that trapezoidal look. The video camera had to be real easy to mount and unmount. The idea that I would have a mount where I would have to unscrew the camera and screw the camera back on again was just not working, because this is the camera I use to do non-overhead videos with. I had to make it with standard hand tools and cheap building materials. I don't have... Well, I do have a workshop, but it's in the process of being torn apart and put back together. So this had to be put together with some standard hand tools like a hacksaw and a drill. The lighting, although it's important, it had to be inexpensive to see whether this was going to work or not. And it had to be easy to set up. I didn't want it to be all sorts of tripods with lights and reflectors. I just wanted it to be simple. So I started with PVC pipe from Charlotte Pipe, hence the name Charlotte. It's 3/4 Schedule 40 pipe because it's a little more sturdy, and it's also fairly inexpensive still. All the parts for this are standard 3/4 inch parts. Elbows, connectors, T-connectors, end caps, whatever. What I did learn is that it was important to glue some of the parts that are never going to need to come apart, and that helped make the registration of the stand correct. The rest of the parts would press fit together that would need to come apart so I could disassemble it. The press fit also allowed me to adjust up and down, right and left, so you could make adjustments for how the camera looked. And PVC pipe is just real easy to cut with a hacksaw and drill with a little tiny hand drill that I have, and it's pretty easy to finish. You just use a piece of sandpaper. Charlotte 1, lessons learned. I used Charlotte for a while, and while I got videos done, I learned a lot. Make certain that the T-connector and the caps that are on the feet are flush with the table. Otherwise, the stand is going to vibrate. And when you post your video to YouTube, they're going to say, "Your video vibrates. Do you want us to help you with it?" Mark the press fit pieces to know how far they go in. I put duct tape on the parts that press fit together, and the duct tape is an indication of how far into the connector or the elbow the pipe should go. Cable ties that are on these that I used to do the cable management turn around and around and around and slip back and forth and become pretty much useless. They show up in the frame. Sometimes, if the circumstances were right, it would disconnect the camera at a critical time, or I would get hit in the head with a lamp. And the cable ties, I found out, should all face the same way. So when you're putting them on and taking them off, you don't have to figure out where the end of the damn cable tie is. A minor thing, but if you're rigging cables, that's important. Vibration was still an issue, and I found a solution to that. And I tried a couple of webcams in my very first videos, and they were terrible. Even though they were supposed to be high resolution, I found out it was necessary to use a real video camera. And it wasn't as though I didn't have real video cameras. I had a number of them, and the one I picked is a JVC Everio. And in a following video, I'll do more details about how this video integrates with the Geek Must Have videos that I do, and the process by which I do the videos. So the first part are two legs, and they look like this. All the pipes and fittings are 3/4 inch, schedule 40 PVC. Each joint includes 1/2 of an inch, or 1.27 centimeters, for inserting the pipe into the fitting, either the elbow, the coupler, the T, or the end caps. So first we start with an elbow, and then we add a 9.5 inch or 24.1 centimeter piece of pipe that's attached to a coupler. The reason why I did this was so that I could put different lengths on there. 9.5 inches works excellent for the lab, but I needed to have 12 or 13 inches for the workshop. And so I have different sleeves that kind of fit into there. Then the next part is the 11.25 inch or 28.5 centimeter pipe that is joined to a T-connector. And then attached to the bottom of the T-connector are the feet of this. There's a front and a back, and I tried to make the front leg of this shorter than the back leg in an effort to get that trapezoidal look, and it didn't work out that well. So there's the front. There's the end cap, and it's 7 inches or 17.7 centimeters to the T. The rear is another end cap, and it's 7.75 inches or 19.6 centimeters. If I were to do this over again, I would probably make the front part of this, the 7.0 inch, shorter in an attempt to get the camera back a little bit further in the view. Now, some of these pieces need to have joints that got glued. And the first one is this one right here, where the upright gets glued to the bottom of the feet. But the next 4 of these, the end cap, where it goes into the T, and where it goes into the end cap, are fairly important when they get glued. As you glue them, you need to make certain that all 4 of those parts are contacting the top of the surface that you're going to put this on. Because if they're not, the damn thing's going to rock, which I found out and had to get more PVC pipe and more glue, etc. The crossbar, this is the part that goes across the top. All right. Each one of the joints is has a 1/2 inch for inserting the pipe. We have 13.25 inches or 33.6 centimeters going to a T connector. Then an identical part that's 13.25 inches or 33.6 centimeters. And that's the overhead. The camera extension. This is the part that plugs into the crossbar, and it gets the camera higher up off the field of view and further enough away so the crossbar doesn't appear in the image or in the frame, and so that it's a little easier to adjust. All right, we start with 15.5 inches or 39.37 centimeters going to an elbow, which in turn goes to another piece of pipe that's 6.25 inches or 15.8 centimeters, which goes to another elbow, which goes to another piece that's 9.5 inches or 24.1 centimeters. The magnetic camera mount that's at the end of the extension is fairly simple. I tried a couple of different things to mount the camera, but I was trying to get away from having to screw the camera on and off to this. So I decided to go with magnets. So this stand has a 1/2 of an L bracket, which is 2¼ inches or 5.71 centimeters by 3/4 of an inch wide or 1.9 centimeters. And it's 1/2 of a bracket, and I ground off the end nice and smooth, as you can see where the arrow is. Followed by 2 1.25 inch or 31.175 centimeter hose clamps. And then glued on the end is a 1 inch or 2.54 centimeter neodymium magnet. And this is about 2 millimeters thick, and this is one of the stronger magnets that I had. You have to be careful with neodymium magnets. They chip, they break very easily. I actually broke a couple during the process of trying to get the camera mount to work right. Now, the companion part to that is the camera mount that's on the actual camera. And there's a circle of it right there. And it's a screw-on camera mount with a magnet on the end of it. So in another picture, I'd get a little more detail, but there it is on the bottom of the camera. And then that camera just snaps on to the camera extension on the overhead rack. Here's a better view of it, and there is a 1/4 by 20 inch screw on a camera mount, and that was salvaged from a tripod that I no longer needed, and I just hacked off the end. If you can see on the top, it's a little rough. And then there's the knob that's used to tighten that 1/4 inch by 20 screw into the camera. And glued onto the end of that knob is an identical 1 inch, 2.54 centimeter, 2 millimeter thick neodymium magnet. Little hint here, make certain that you mark the magnets before you put them on and glue them, or else the camera won't stick. Another problem I came into. Another lesson learned. It's a better view of what the camera mount looks like off of the camera. And there's the 1/4 by 20 inch screw on the camera mount. There's the knob that's used to tighten it to the camera. And there's the 1 inch neodymium magnet. Well, Charlotte 2. Lessons learned, retrospective, whatever you want to call it. After lining up the T connectors and caps flat with the table and thinking you got it right, if they're not glued in place, they'll get out of alignment and the thing will wobble. So glue the suckers. Fill the feet segments up with playground sand. This will make them more stable, but use a funnel. Don't try to use a piece of paper to put them in because the sand does get everywhere. Another lesson learned. Screw the cable ties to the PVC pipe. Suckers won't move after that. They will stay in place. And put the screws in from the opposite end and where you think the cables are going to route. The more cable ties, the better, because it makes it easier to route. Cable ties are 3 cents a piece. Really? Use more. So this is what the cable tie looks like. I found out that if you use a piece of duct tape, you can hold the cable tie in place. You route it through, string it down, use a piece of tape and hold it in place, and then drill a pilot hole. If you don't drill a pilot hole, the screw is not, it's going to take forever to get in or set itself and drill in. And in one instance, it actually split a pipe. And then after you drill the hole, drive the screw through the cable tie into the PVC, but go very slowly. If you go really quick, the screw will strip and actually fall out. Lighting. I wanted the lighting to be simple, so I got 2 Menards clamp lights for $6 a piece. I also got 2 100-watt LED light bulbs that are kind of a soft white light. I don't know if that's the right color for the videos, but it was $6 for a 2-pack. So got $12 for lighting so far. Clamped to the top of the crossbar, pointing upwards, so that the light reflects off of the ceiling and I don't get glare on the pad, because the pad, the reference pad, that green reference pad, is kind of glossy. They can be adjusted pretty easy. And then 1 Menards fluorescent light for under the counter use, and that was $12. So we got $24 in lighting so far. It has a 60-watt small fluorescent tube light, which is a pain in the ass to keep in the socket while you're mounting it. It's mounted with removable zip ties. These are zip ties that you can press on the end of them and then they open up. And it's mounted to the crossbar using those zip ties. Makes it easier to adjust and take them on and off. The base of the light is facing me. These are under the counter lights, so there's a base and then a part where the light comes out. I have the base facing me so the light doesn't shine in my eyes while I'm doing videos. And just like the 2 Menards lamps, they can be adjusted pretty easily. These are the clamp lights with the LED bulbs in them. They're just standard ordinary clamp lights. Get a bigger reflector. I started with a smaller reflector and found out that I wasn't getting the benefit of all the lights, so I moved up to a larger reflector. Here's the crossbar light. It's got a switch on it. And the nice thing about this light is, if you can see on the cord, there's a little bulge about 7 or 8 inches down. That's a bulge that allows you to add another light. So you can string these lights together and have one cord. That helps keep down on the cable management, but also makes it easier for you to put lights on. I thought about putting lights on the uprights on the legs of this stand, but I don't think that's going to help. So let's take a look at the assembly. So here is the assembly of Charlotte, the overhead camera rig. We have 2 legs, this leg and this leg, and they're both marked with a front on them. So I can get them right side and left side correct. So the next piece is the cross brace, the crossbar as I call it. And the crossbar goes in with the T at about a 45-degree angle coming out. And it can be close because even after you adjusted this, or even after you've assembled it, it's still adjustable. The little duct tape markers indicate how far the pipe can go in to the fitting. Oh. And then you adjust the legs, turning them until all 4 points balance, and that's probably the most difficult thing. But there we go. So that's the 2 legs in the cross brace, this at a 45-degree angle. These little pieces of duct tape are indicators as to how far into the couplers they can go. Then the next piece to get installed is the camera mount. And what the camera mount does is take the camera high enough and far enough away from the green mat, which is my reference area, so that the camera can zoom in and zoom out without any problems. And this just basically goes into here. And I think we're going to have to angle this up a bit more. There we go. And that's basically it. Almost lying perfect. The legs here are filled with sand to help dampen any vibrations as a result of me working on this surface. It's kind of difficult to not vibrate, but putting sand in that seems to have dampened the vibrations quite a bit. But with this long extension tube to get the camera the right distance away, you just can't get away from the vibration that happens. And then the camera mounts onto here with a magnet from the magnet that's here. So the magnet that's on the base of the camera, which is this magnet right here, gets mounted on the bottom of the camera, then the camera hooks into place. So that's the assembly of Charlotte. The next step is to mount the lights. And those are the 2 Menards lights, which get mounted on the corners because they seem to hold better on the elbow brackets. One's on and off. And this one gets mounted. And it's on and off, on and on. Light reflects off the ceiling, gives a fairly nice light on the reference mat. I still think there can be some improvements to the lighting. The next component of the lighting is the crossbar light. Now the crossbar light is an under-the-counter type mount that you're supposed to mount underneath the counter, and mounting it sideways is what helped. I mounted it so that the base faced me, so the light wouldn't shine in my light. And this attaches to the cross brace with a couple of removable zip ties. These are ones that are reusable. These come in handy for this type of thing because it allows me to take the light on and off without it being attached permanently. And you can still adjust the light, so you can turn it on, and that casts the light downwards towards the back area of the reference mat. And now the next part is to route all of these cables to the right and to the left. There's a signal cable that comes off of the camera that goes up and down and along and down and along the side. And that signal cable is what sends the files from the camera to the computer after they've been recorded. I could just as easily take the SD card out of the camera, stick it in the computer, and copy the files that way. But having this signal cable makes it a little bit easier, so I don't have to keep taking the SD card out. So I'm going to route these wires and show you what it looks like after I'm done. You can see there's the green reference pad, and you can see the green reference pad there in the view screen of the camera, which is pointing down, and you can see the same view screen on the monitor, which faces me. So while it's facing me, I can always see what is in the frame and what isn't in the frame. The other nice thing about this is that there is the ability to telephoto in. So you can zoom in and zoom out. So I can take advantage of the 60x optical zoom, not digital, but optical zoom that's on this, and be able to zoom in on some projects. Now I'm going to go in and show you a few parts. The Menard clamp lights are clamped and facing upward with the light bouncing off the ceiling. And then there is the fluorescent bar light that's right there, that's going across the fluorescent bar. And all the cables are neatly dressed, which means they're not hanging anywhere and can get caught on things. So we have cables coming up, down, and then along the feet, and then into the computer. We also have cables that travel along the edge, go down like this, go along the feet, and plug into a power unit. One of the advantages of having all the cables dressed properly is that they don't get snagged up in your shit while you're working on it. I have zoomed in sufficiently with the camera that while you can see the legs here, in the actual frame that's going to be videoed, you don't. You just see the mat. I didn't quite achieve the trapezoid effect that you see right now with the mat in the actual captured video, but I got close. And I imagine Charlotte will continue to be a work in progress. Well, that was the assembly of Charlotte, the overhead camera. And I will have some links in the description below where you can download a copy of this presentation if you'd like, with the details on how it was built. And I had fun making this video. It's one of the longest ones I've ever done, and I hope you enjoyed it and possibly learned something from it. I've learned a lot over just the last month of using Charlotte. If you like this video, then please click on the like button below. Leave any feedback or questions in the comments section. And can you give a geek a hand? Would you subscribe to my channel? I would really appreciate it. Now, take a little time off and build something.